Hi, it's me again, the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III. I'm a chaplain here at Christian Hospital Northeast in St. Louis, Missouri. So glad to be able to share with you once more in our morning meditation. In other words, as some have coined it, this is the meditation of the day from the Reverend Dr. J. It's corny, I know. I'm going to roll with it, though. I want to be able to share with you these words of encouragement and inspiration. It is such a joy to be able to share these messages. And thank you so much for your feedback and your words of encouragement and inspiration to me as we are sharing these messages, not only here in this forum, but in other forums and platforms so others can be enriched and empowered for their lives. Well, today's meditation is entitled Every Little Step. Every Little Step. And I am aware that sometimes in our lives, we find ourselves traveling through winding roads, traveling paths that we are not so sure of, going in directions that are unfamiliar, and find ourselves sometimes wondering how in the world did we get here? Some started out with plans for how their lives would work out with those who they would journey with. And in fact, we thought that we might have accomplished more by now, or achieved some goal, or found ourselves in some place where we can feel satisfied with our efforts. But many of us have discovered that along the way, we look back and we wondered how we got off the path, how we missed the road, where was the exit when we needed it, how did we travel this far down the road and to discover that we are in a lost place without GPS, without anyone to help us, and without directions for our own selves, not even sure if we want to go in the direction we're headed in. Some of us started out in marriages and discovered that after love and after commitment and after years of sacrifice, that you may have emerged from that relationship bewildered and broken. Others have followed career paths that you thought would pay out. You thought you'd be in a different place, worked for 15, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years even, and to discover that while you're there, you get laid off and you're not quite sure where you'll be and what you're supposed to do next. Well, when life leads you down those paths, it's hard to find your way. You call friends, you call loved ones, you try to get some sense of what it is that is happening in your life, to gain direction, to get your equilibrium and get back on the road, only to discover that even they are not quite sure what to tell you. And so that this morning, as we share in this meditation, I want to encourage you today to know that every little step that you take matters. Everything that happens in your life is important. And so I want to turn your attention to a passage of scripture I think that might help. It's from the 37th Psalm, and I love the 37th Psalm. It begins with this reminder to those who've been broken by the attacks from people and from circumstances, and those who have found themselves on the backside rather than the front side, those who have been cast out or been under attack, or those who feel like they have gotten the short end of the straw. They are reminded to not to fret themselves because of those who have done wrong by them. But to know that God or their creator has seen and understands their plight. God is aware of exactly what they're going through. And I want to say to you that God is indeed aware of all that you have experienced. In fact, God is watching you, God sees you, and God understands. Now, that may not be comforting for some, because some would say, God, if you knew that I was going to experience this degree of pain, or this degree of loss, or this kind of brokenness, why in the world would you let me experience that? And it is that ultimate question that many of us have, that as we are seeing things in life, why does God allow, as Rabbi Harold Kushner would say, good things to happen bad things to happen to good people, rather. And it is one of those things. It is one of those questions that we have. It is a theological question. It's a philosophical question. But right here today, I think I want to share some news to us and maybe perhaps share this message of encouragement. The 37th Psalm, a little further down, somewhere closer to the 23rd verse and the 24th verse, through maybe 25th and 26th verse, just bear with me, I think might be able to help us. And I'm going to read a little bit of that, Psalm 37, and I'm going to start reading at verse 23. It says that God directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them up by the hand. Once I was young and now I'm old, says the psalmist, yet I have never seen the godly abandoned or forsaken, or their children begging for bread. The godly always give generously and loan to others, and their children are a blessing. It says here even further, turn from evil and do good, and you will live in the land forever. For the Lord loves justice, and he will never abandon the godly. You know, reading that reminds me of something really important, that every step, every little step. So if you don't mind, I want to channel Bobby Brown. Every little step you take, every little step I take, you will be there. I will be there. In other words, it is God's admonition and God's encouragement that every little step we take, God will be there with us as we journey. Didn't say that God would deter us from taking the step or keep us from making the mistake or help us or guide us always away from the things that don't feel so good to us. But what it does say and reminds us that God is aware of every step we take, and that if God is aware of it, God will bring solution, healing, encouragement, resourcefulness, all that we need in that moment to survive it. That's what I needed to hear. Some years ago, I read somewhere in a book about the great jazz musician Miles Davis. It was eye-opening. It was said that Miles Davis was famous for his ability to do tremendous things by playing the trumpet. And Miles, while playing in front of an audience, would often play a series of notes and then somewhere along the line hit a sour note that seemed like it was a mistake, only to discover that Miles Davis was so gifted and creative that he'd take the mistaken note that we all thought or would think would be a mistake and build on that after the note was played and make it one of these miraculous songs that was a masterpiece. I like that. Taking a mess up and turning it into a masterpiece. Taking what seems like the mundane and turning it into a miracle. Those are the things that God does. God takes things that look like they would be damaging to us, hurtful to us, something that would break us and destroy us, and use it in our journey to make it a miracle and even maybe even a masterpiece. I can say with confidence that there are things that I never thought I would recover from. And there are moments that I thought I'd never emerge from, but only through patience, I discovered that there was God every little step. You know, you don't always know whether God is present or whether or not you'll survive the moment when you get the call and you lose a loved one, or you come from the doctor's office and you get a diagnosis that scares you to your core, or when you go to work and discover that you've lost your job, or you discover that you don't have enough to pay the bills and they are calling and harassing you. For some people, that is not a problem. They've never experienced that. But for others, there are other things that challenge us. Maybe perhaps is the wounding of a heart, or a loved one saying that they no longer love us anymore, or our children rejecting all that we've tried to do for them, or how much we tried to lead them, or to even find ourselves holding the hand of a parent who's at the end of life. Whatever it is, I want to encourage you that God will be with you every little step. It may not feel like it always, but you'll discover that when you can't carry yourself, God often carries you. I've often shared this story about my son, who is now a 27-year-old man. But when he was younger, and a little boy, little baby, I say a little baby, he was first learning how to walk. And while he would walk, we would find ourselves holding his hand. And while he was moving his little legs, we would often feel him stumbling on his way down. And we would not let him fall, only to pick him up and watch his legs flail and his eyes open. And after a while, the routine was clear. He knew that every time he was about to fall, he would get picked up and carried 4 or 5 steps ahead. And he would come back with his legs moving as if the fall never happened. Often, he started to laugh and giggle and sometimes say "we." Well, some of us have felt that when we were about to fall, God stepped in. And every step that we could not take, God carried us 5 steps forward. And the things that we thought we'd never make it through, God helped us make it through. And we discovered that we came through it okay. Not without tears, not without stumbling, not without even some worry or a little pain, but we made it through. So I want you to be encouraged today. We're going through a rough time in the nation, a rough time in our neighborhoods, a rough time in our communities. We see and hear about so many things around us, and it breaks our hearts. But I want to remind you, as you travel through this time and through this season, that God is with you every little step. God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us. We ask that you would share these messages with friends. Give us your feedback as often as you can. We'd love to hear from you. And we want you to know we appreciate you so much for tuning in and sharing these messages with others. Remember that you are loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. God bless. Have a great day and have a great week.